Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Talk with Sorintan Haure. Today we'll be discussing a very important topic, which is related to Manipur. Yes, as we are all aware, Manipur has been facing a lot of issues since the 3rd of May 2023, especially the youth. We have been directly or indirectly affected by the ongoing conflict. So this evening we'll be discussing about the youth, the roles and responsibility of youth in the ongoing conflict, as well as our responsibilities to promote peace and harmony in this state. In order to discuss this further and to get to know much better about the ongoing issue, I have three special guests with me this evening. I'll introduce you and then we shall start with the discussion. First of all, I have Misak Takelmayum. Yeah, Misak Takelmayum is an indigenous writer, activist, educator, and creative artist from Imphal. They have worked as a ground reporter for Varta Trust and have also published poetry with Sapiens magazine. He is a recipient of the Zuban Sasakawa Grant for Young Researchers, under which the theme of queerness amidst conflict is explored. Right, there are lots here, but I think that will suffice for now, Misak. We will get to know you better in our discussion later in the later part. And I also have Mr. Siam Paipi. He is an advocate. Thank you so much for joining. And lastly, but not the least, I have Mr. Robin Kangba, who was the vice president of Senapati District Student Association. He is a youth leader. Thank you so much to the three of you for joining us in this special episode. Yeah, like I've said in the beginning, Manipur has have faced lots of issues. Many lives have been lost, thousands have been displaced. We are all aware of that. I will not go much into that. Today's discussion will be the role of youths in the ongoing conflict, what we have been up to, what we can do, and also especially our focus will be our roles in promoting peace and harmony. As we can see that it is a information and technology era. The use of social media has, in a way, incited violence in many places, and the spread of fake news, rumors, etc., has also encouraged violence in so many places. And most of that actions were done by the youth. So in many ways, youth has encouraged hatred and animosity in many places. So, considering all these things, I think youth has to play a huge role in promoting peace and also promoting love amongst one another. We can be peacemakers. We can join interactions and then promote peace. So, my our first question will be to Misak. In your opinion, since the 3rd of May 2023, what are your observations about the roles and the responsibilities which the youth have taken up till now? Most of the victims in war in the front line are youth. Most of us who have lost their lives are youth. So, directly or indirectly, I think we youth have indulged in this war with the maximum participation. In your observation, how has the roles and responsibility of youths been till now?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's lovely to meet all of you and have this opportunity. I'm being from the Meitei community. I would say that I mean, of course, like both sides and every people, even beyond like the binary of Kuki and Meitei, are also taking part in this conflict and they're also affected. But as a Meitei, like one thing that I could say is that there's also a drive for violence among the youth within our own communities too. And I think that is something that we often do not address. But there's this sheer need and like interest in violence and like inciting it because there's no other source of like things that can also take away and catapult their attention away. I mean, we live in a time where everything is under censorship in the valley. Music music concerts, for example, which used to be like an ample space for people to also express before, has been limited now. I mean, the radicals are not agreeing to performative arts, sports. These things are also disrupted. So I feel like the youth are also increasingly attracted towards violence because there's no other avenue for them to also express. So I
Okay.
think that is one, as a Meitei, that is
Mhm.
something prominent in the valley.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So directly or indirectly, we the youth has been affected by the present situation in the Imphal Valley. Is that what you meant to say? All right. All right. So what
Yeah.
could the government? Yeah. If there had been a less censorship, do you mean to say the youth's involvement in the violence would have been minimized?
I believe so. I mean, addressing it right now, I mean, for safety concerns also, it's difficult to also address certain things. But I feel like from the mechanism that is operating the violence, there's also how our attention is only about the violence. The emphasis of the violence is so big in our lives right now that the only thing that the youth talk about, they sing about, they want to express is about the violence. And I think since everyone is so attracted to that idea of violence, they have no other source of like expressing art, expressing culture. I think these things can also take us away from violence for a while. Yes, it's also important to talk about the conflict, but something that's really frustrating as an artist is also how the system that is working right now is not allowing
Okay.
people to focus on things beyond the violence.
Okay. All right, Mr. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion. Yep, this is just the basis. I'll come back to the main topic in a while. I'll go to Siam at the moment. Siam, yeah, Mr. has just shared his opinion. I would like to ask you the same question. How have you observed the role of youth in the ongoing conflict so far? How have we been? Some people feel that the youth have been used in this particular conflict. What would your observation be?
If the question is if the youths have been used, I would agree to a very large extent as well. And at the same time, I would also say that there are volunteers as well.
Right.
At the end of the day, I would blame it on the political class because everything falls down because who has the power to do things? It's always the political class. It's always who has the power to stop the violence, who has the power to bring an end to this. It's always the people at the top. It's never people at the bottom. And sadly, in this every situation, I think uh, the youths are being controlled in a way, in whatever way that is. Everybody has their own way of controlling, I would say. I'm very sure everybody has their own opinion of the youths on how they are being used and how many are being used, I would say. And many are volunteers, many are doing what they think is best. And but
Okay.
along the way, because at this point, I think pretty much I would say it's just there's so much radicalization of the society in general. Uh, it's difficult to for the youth also to go back at that stage where they shouldn't do anything. So I think this is the issue that because we have gone so deep into the violence, it's difficult for people to back out of it, especially people who are in the front lines, I would say, because
Okay.
it's like you have been there, you have seen everything, you have faced everything, the dangers, everything and all, and for us, I think it's much easier, I would say. So what goes on through their head also, I can't really judge on the things they do because it's easy for me to say, okay, yeah, you should do this, you should do that, but I'm not the one risking my life day in and day night. So I can't really go and start judging them that, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But at the end of the day, I will uh, always blame it on the people who have the power to do things.
Okay.
It's always the political class, be it the state, be it the central. I think that's the bottom
Okay.
line is the people may be at fault to whatever extent, but at the end of the day, who has the authority, the power, everything, it always lies down to the state and the center.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Sam, you have pointed out a very interesting point there. Um, just a supplementary question. So, if you feel that the youth have been used, do you think most of the youths understand the situation, why the two communities are at being war? Do they understand why they are at war? What would your observation be? Are they being led to this war just because, like Mesak said, there was the state, the political class has not done much for them. Yeah, you mentioned something about some people volunteering. Yes, that may also be true. But overall, in general, do you think the youths in the front line or who are involved in this particular war understands the situation why they are at war.
Yes, of course, they understand why they are at war because, in all seriousness, everything, this violence, when it started out, I don't think anyone was being used at the initial stage at all.
Okay.
Everyone was, this is our place, this is our place, and also it's everyone just volunteer, I would say. At least at the initial stages, I would say that everyone was pretty much a volunteer. I have volunteered in whatever way I can. I have not in the front lines, of course, because I'm not there. But I think as this goes on, I think little by little, this it's more about politics than it's about trying to solve the Manipur problem in general, the Manipur violence in general. Like the the political class, I will always say that I will always blame it on the political class because they are the elected representative. They are the one who has the power again. But
Mhm.
at the same time, this violence is so complicated that I don't think the political class at this stage, especially at least those who are at the not at the top, I would say, they don't really have the power. So these things are taken over by the CSOs and everyone in general, and it's just become a political play where, at the end of the day, it's always the, the the people who are at the receiving end are always the people. People have
Mhm.
been, I mean, barely surviving in relief camps in
Right,
horrible conditions. And
right.
I don't really think they are the first priority anymore as compared to when it first started out. Now it's just a spiral of politics, and in all seriousness, I'm also very disappointed in my community as well because I kind of feel that the people's movement, how it started out, it was a complete people's movement. I would 100% say that because I was
Mhm.
also there. But as it goes on, I'm also slightly backing out because I don't feel that there's and this is for everyone. So I don't really feel that there's that sincerity as compared to how it was because I mean, if one person dies after a week, he's forgotten. I mean, that's just how sad and pathetic it is. And then something will happen again. Like even if you look at the opposition or even the ruling government, the opposition will only protest when someone dies. They don't really protest through that. Okay, until this is solved, something happens. One person dies, okay, they'll protest for 2 3 days, forgotten. And another person will die, then they're forgotten
Okay.
again. And then another person die, forgotten again. And then along that way, there's absolutely no kind of accountability. There's no absolutely no kind of empathy. There's absolutely no kind of justice for anyone. So it's very difficult for people to move on. At the same time, although I would say that the youths, there are large number of have been volunteers uh,
Hmm.
from their own free will, but as it comes along the way, at least to what I have observed, it's just politics taking over,
Okay.
and
See,
the
yeah.
people have been left behind,
Okay.
and the politics put in front now.
Okay. So, Siam, yeah, just one last supplementary question before I move on. So, do you think the main objective, the main vision behind this violence, this war has been lost now? I mean, as we moved on? Because, like you said earlier, it was a people's movement. Now, things have changed. Lack of sincerity and stuff which you have just mentioned. So, do you think the real objective or the vision has been lost?
See, before I say these things and all, I'll just put a disclaimer that these are my personal opinions, what I have
Yeah, yeah,
observed.
definitely.
I'm not representing my society in general. I'm just representing whatever I have observed personally, what I have experienced.
Right.
Let me just put that as a disclaimer. So, from what I have observed, at least me personally, I would say I'm never interested in any kind of politics in anything in general. See, I've been displaced from Imphal Valley. I lived in Imphal West. My family has lived their whole life. Everything we own was in Imphal. We own nothing in the hills. Absolutely nothing. Everything we have settled down in Imphal. We have run a school for 25 years in Imphal, and that was completely destroyed. You know, and it's not that. the our people who have been living in the valley have done anything to the valley folks. At the same time, it's not that the people living in the hills, the valley people living in the hills, have done anything to the hills in those area in particular. But we have just become like collateral damage in these things,
Right.
and our opinions are not put at the front. That the people who have actually suffered are not in the front. And if
Hmm.
you ask me personally, I am not interested in any kind of politics, any kind of demand, anything and all. But the main goal why the people's movement and everything is that this is what I have always said, that the safety and security and all that has to be guaranteed. Like safety and security is of the utmost importance. I honestly don't care in what form it comes, in whatever way it comes, but the safety and security is paramount for me and my family. My family was also kidnapped. So what we
Oh.
have faced and what the people other people have faced, everyone will have their own suffering, everyone will have their own, and depending on what they have suffered, they'll want different things. If one person has suffered more, they'll want a different thing. If one person has suffered less, they'll want different thing. So it's just about equating on what someone has experienced. Like people who have been in politics from before will obviously look at the political line, because they are in politics. Like but people
Okay.
like me who have never really followed politics ever in their life, except in the start of this Manipur violence. Uh,
Hmm.
we are not really inclined towards that. But at the end of the day, at the end of it is that the safety and security is paramount, and
Okay.
I will
All right.
emphasize on this fact that that is paramount, and it's the political class that has to come up in how to bring that.
Okay.
And
All right.
that's why the negotiation talks is important. You talk it out.
Mhm.
If you agree, fine. If you disagree, fine. But talk it out.
All right. All right. Siam, thank you so much. You have shared so many interesting points with us. I'll come back to you just in a while. Uh, Brother Robin, are you there with us? Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just listened to the opinions of Misak and Siam. Both of their communities are in a warring situation at the moment. The Nagas have been at the neutral position till now. But we have all heard and seen that the Nagas have been directly or indirectly in so many occasions affected by the ongoing conflict. And since the three communities live in a state, the administration in a way or another has been affected, and that too has affected the youth of Manipur, I mean the Nagas, the youth of Nagas as well. What is your observation of this ongoing conflict so far in the context of the youth, the Naga youth?
Uh, so far, I mean, we have all been saying that the Nagas are, I mean, in a neutral position. We are in a neutral state. But then we have also been, I mean, on the receiving end in this conflict. Because you see, right from, I mean, everyone is focused on, the cookies and the Maitais, they're suffering. I know. I mean, I cannot just dismiss their suffering and then the whatever trauma that they are going through at the moment. I mean, it's very understandable because they are at war. But the thing is, we are so focused on theirs alone that I mean, the suffering and the trauma that we Nagas are also facing is mostly, brushed aside. It's like ignored. Because
Mm,
here, if we look at it, when they are at war, we, the Nagas, I mean, wherever we might be, especially those at the border areas of border communities, and even people there in the valley, the Nagas are not saying, I mean, they are not living peacefully saying, oh, we're neutral, we are not in war, or we have nothing to do with this. None of the Nagas are living peacefully in this situation. They are also, I mean, every day, ever since the start of the conflict, they are also at the edge of their seat, not knowing what will happen next. They are also equally at trauma. They are also equally having, I mean, having a hard time. Uh, and that is leaving aside all those, every now and then the incidents of being harassed, being beaten up, being, you know, um, extorted and all. leaving aside all those things, that the normal life of the Nagas are also affected here,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But we per se we have not, directly got involved and then started a war with anyone at the moment. But then we are also the Nagas. I feel the Nagas are also equally affected, and then people, especially those people living there in the valleys, I think they're also having a very hard time because of this conflict. And now, for me, personally, I would say uh, this conflict or whatever conflict, I think all people generally, I think we all love peace.
Yeah.
But then all this sort of war, all these sort of conflicts, I think it is because of just a few individuals, because of their own vested interests. They use the name of the community, they use the name of their people, and then they try to instigate everyone to, drive their own, their own vested interests. That's what I
Okay.
feel. And
Okay.
there's a saying that not a saying, but then something that I believe, uh, which I truly, believe in my heart. There are people who say that they love their community, they love their tribe, they love their people, and that's what they'll declare in their speech or in their talks. But then what I have observed is these type of people who profess that they love their people, they love their community, and then they'll spread hatred to other communities. Okay, they'll spread hatred to other communities, and then they'll say that I love my people, I love my this thing, my community. So for the sake of my community, this, and then at the same time they'll spread hatred for the neighboring
Okay.
communities.
Okay.
But something that I believe in truly is, if you really love your people, if you really love your people, if you really love your family, you should also love your neighbor. Otherwise, if you say that you love your family and then if you spread hatred for your neighbors, you are actually doing harm to your family.
Okay.
Because we human beings, as a social being, we cannot live on our own.
Right. Right.
And then if I truly love my family, I'm going to be nice to my neighbor. I'm going to
Right.
care for my neighbor, because I cannot be always there for my family. And then in my absence, it is my neighbor who is going to take care of my family. It is my neighbor who is going to look after my family when I'm not able to be, with my family. When I'm not able to help out, or when I'm in a helpless situation, it is my neighbor who is going to help my family. So here, what I mean to say is that if I really love my neighbor, I'm not going to spread hatred for
Yeah.
my. I
Yeah.
mean, if I really love my family, I'm not going to spread hatred of my neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
Brother Robin,
what
I'd
I
like
would
to,
like.
yeah, sorry to interrupt here, but I'll cut it and then I'd like to ask you a supplementary regarding which you just said. As a Naga, has the Naga community being
Mhm.
staying neutral, whatever position the Nagas has taken, is it the best decision taken so far? Has the Nagas been a good neighbor to both the Kuki community and the Meitei community? Are Nagas a good neighbor so far?
I feel so far, I think the Nagas have been trying their best to, maintain a very neutral position, because here, uh, I mean, people, there are a lot of people accusing, the Nagas of maintaining neutrality and all, but then I think there's a very big reason for that, because I mean, what side do we take here? All, and I think what our apex Boris have also been advocating is, I think they have been advocating for peace and, for reconciliation. But that has been brushed aside, I feel, by, I have seen the UNC going around and, trying to bring about a reconciliation last year. When I think that has been brushed aside. So I think at the moment, I think the Nagas are trying their best to be
Okay.
mm, good neighbor as much as possible.
Okay. So maintaining
Uh,
neutrality has been the best decision so far for the Nagas. Is that what you meant? Is that your
yeah,
opinion? All right.
I,
All right.
yeah, I think that's I mean that's what I feel. And then
Okay.
apart from just maintaining neutrality, I think the Nagas have been advocating for peace.
Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
as far as my
So
knowledge is
Nagas.
concerned, I think that is.
Okay. Nagas has been a good neighbor so far, then, according to your statement. Yeah. Thank you so much, Brother Robin. I'll come back to you in a while. I'd like to ask Misak, in your opinion, yeah, I think your opinion and Siam's opinion is a little bit common because it is the state, the political class, I think, which you want to blame for, for this ongoing conflict. And Siam stated something about youths being used, being led to the violence. I want to know, in your opinion as well, the youths in the Imphal Valley. I think hundreds and thousands have been recruited for this ethnic conflict. Do you think the youths know the root of this particular conflict? Why they are in this war? Why they are being led to this war? Like Siam said earlier, his family was raised in Imphal. They have been living in Imphal. They own. I mean, they don't own any property in the hills. They're in the valley, but they have been driven out. And vice versa for some Métis in Moreh or in Churachandpur or wherever they might be. Do you think the youth know the issue? Do you think the leaders are leading them astray? Do you think they know why they are in this war?
Not at all. I mean, especially with us Meiteis, the movement has never been cohesive. I mean, at least with our Kuki friends on the other side, whether they're having an organizing a protest at Jantar Mantar, or even if they're doing it in Washington D.C., or even if they're doing it in Singapore or Sydney, the no separation, no solution theme is very, very cohesive on their end. But on ours, it's all over the place. Again,
Okay.
there'll be issues that talks about immigration, that talks about poppy, that talks about corruption, that talks about the quota issues, that talks about forests. And people at this point clearly don't have an idea because, especially for the young people out here, I mean, when you talk to them about the violence and like why you're doing this or why you're doing that, and when we try to take up accountability and start that conversation, there is only a very binary way to look at the conflict, as in it is either black or white, it is either good or bad. But I mean, like Siam stated, for example, Siam is from Impal, I'm from Impal. I don't necessarily see Siam as Kuki Meitei. I see Siam as someone who's also from Impal. I'm also from Impal. We're both from Impal. But these sentences, those type of ideas are something that are not promoted anymore because it doesn't fit the agenda of what is being done. And at the end of the day, it's not that I don't want to take accountability, but I talk about this often. Even the idea of a state in itself is very, very problematic. I mean, when we talk about Manipur, what is Manipur? When we talk about Nagaland, what is Nagaland? When we talk about Mizoram, what is Mizoram? So, coming from the central governments and the militarization of our regions, and obviously these regions are important crossroad to uh, Eastern Asia, Southeast and Eastern Asia. So that's why there's it's not us who have much to gain from this conflict, but people don't understand the nexus of everything that entails the conflict in that sense. So that's why when they're participating in the violence, these many of these people who do actively participate in the violence are people who've never met a cookie in their lives. For example, when I meet people who've met, interacted with cookies, for example, there is a sense of empathy, even though there is also prejudice. So I guess this lack of interaction and divide that has been happening for so many years now, this conversation of like cookies in so thabaga chaw sangloin pai re gan haiba. And then
Mm-hmm.
for example, like oh moina loina paisa pai re, they're richer than us,
Mm-hmm.
they're more competitive, they're better than us. And so this insecurity that's being driven is also something that we should have taken
Okay.
accountability earlier, because
Mm-hmm.
even with what Brother Robin said, I definitely agree how Nagas are also trying to be mediators in this conversation. But at the same time, I also want a sort of accountability from the Nagas also, because let's say, for example, the term of illegal immigrants, for example, was not something that originated within the Meiteis. This was something that we heard our Naga brethren use against the Kukis for years now, that even now that we are also starting to use it. That's why when they have protests, for, like when they have like prayer sessions in Dimapur, for example, I know they're not praying for the Meiteis in that context. They're praying for the Kukis because our Christian brothers, our Christian brothers. But then at the same time, when I go to Nagaland as a Meitei, I know that they're again saying these Kukis are illegal immigrants. So there's also a hypocrisy within our conversations, and how solidarity is so hypocritical in this hour. So that's why there needs to be a collective mission to also address these things, because we can have liberation, but
Mhm.
if you see the case and example of countries like Afghanistan or even neighboring Myanmar, they achieve some sort of liberation, but then if it's not liberation for all, then again the country system falters. So that's why now when we try to address the conflict also, lots of these young people don't have an answer. So if cookies get a separate administration, will we be happy? If we don't get a separate administration, it means we have to live with them. Then will you be happy? Is something I ask them
Okay.
often.
Yeah.
And they don't have an
Yeah.
answer, so they have no clue.
Okay. Mesa, you have made 3 points which I would like to ask you, but then I'll come back for the Naga thing which you have just mentioned, the hypocrisy of the Nagas which you just mentioned, and also about the separate administration. But I'd like to ask you first regarding the youth. Who are the leaders of the Meitei community, which the youth should look forward to, whom they should listen to? Because in my earlier discussion, one of my panelists, one of my guests said, uh, she don't know who the leaders of the Meitei communities is. For example, at the moment, there are lots of power tussles within the CSOs. Who really are leading this conflict? Who are at war? I mean, who is leading the war for the Meitei community? Who should the Meitei listen to? Or if not the war, what should the youth of the Meitei community do? For peace-loving youth, whom do they listen to? What do they do next? Instead of going to war, instead of torching someone else's houses, instead of carrying a gun and going for war, what should peace-loving Meitei youths do? Who should they listen to?
At this hour, it's also a very conflicting question, because I could even get killed if I give a certain type of answer. But, and I'm just being very honest, but it's just we are a community of very, very weak intellectual people. And I've accepted that. I'm weak myself. There's not much that we can do as people who want peace. I mean, we've seen the case of what happened to Ozaba Bluloitombam and Madam Brinda. So
Yeah.
opening up these conversations, and that's something that I want to tell to our Naga brethren and like our Kuki brethren, is also that there are many of us within who try to work through the system to bring and bridge the gap and try to bring peace. But then it's almost insurmountable now, because the way who we're oriented to as the youth is also very different. There's, I don't mean to sound classist, but there's a certain type of demographic that, let's say, an uneducated person will want this person to be a leader, and then there's a sort of intellectual people will want this person to be the leader. But often with intellectual people also, the problem that we have is that most of us have had our education outside the state. So when we come back out here, we cannot communicate properly with the grassroots people, and the grassroots people are being led by other different people. And at the end of the day, sensationalism is very, very popular in the valley. I mean, we've seen how people like Arcachan Thoy and Lisipri also grow. So I'm not going to comment on like whether they're good leaders or not, but then
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
just saying is that that popularity has soared to a great height. So for us to find leaders at this time, uh, being very frank, the intellectual people, I'm on the academic circle, so like I would want someone from that preface, but then
Okay.
it's not possible.
Yeah, Misak, should the youth of the Meitei community continue to go to war against the Kuki community, or should the Meitei youths have dialogues and move towards peace to bring about a peaceful solution and live together as one?
See, in my personal sentiment, like I would not want war at all. I mean, it's something that I would definitely not want to. And dialogue is something that I believe in, whether it works or not works, like we said. But unfortunately, I again, in a very sad and unfortunate way, I do not represent the ethos of my community. This is a community that I said like intellectuals are very weak at this point, and there's also lots of young people who are violent. and very hungry.
Hmm.
I cannot be
Yeah.
a savior in this context and just let my own personal inhibitions say that this is what the Meiteis represent, because I
Yeah.
represent a
Just
certain
your,
type
yeah,
of
personal
Meitei,
opinion. Hmm.
and but in my opinion, of course, I mean,
Yeah.
belief in dialogue continuously. I mean, we
Okay.
existed together for so many years, and even now, when people throw around the word illegal, it really hurts me because what is the illegal human being? I often ask them, how can you call another human being illegal?
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, when we're talking about border and like this fencing proposition that many people are promoting, it's
All right.
something that really hurts me because I know for a fact that ethnically we are Southeast Asian. We're not South Asian, no matter how much government of India will try to enforce that. So trying to have that conversation as an indigenous person is also very, very difficult because many
Hmm.
people are already biased towards New Delhi rather than
Right.
Southeast Asian people.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing your opinion, Miss Ag. It's very interesting to listen to your opinion. It's very enlightening. Yeah, the reason why I ask you all this question is because the youth are at the receiving end. Those lives which has been lost at war are the youths. So if we want to go at war, we are the one, I mean, the youths are the one whose lives are lost. But if we want peace, it's our future, the youth's future. So we are the one to live. I mean, the rest of these years to come. Just one question before I move on to Siam. The Kuki community has been asking for a separate administration. Why should the youth of Manipur, why should the youth of the Meitei community oppose to the separate administration demanded by the Kuki community?
Mm, is that for me to
Do,
answer?
do, yeah, yeah. Do they have a right to ask for a separate administration, or do you think the Meitei community, yes, they are mostly dominated, I mean, inhabited in the Imphal Valley. So the Kuki community asking for a separate administration, do you think it will affect the Meitei community? Why are they so much opposed to this demand?
Hmm. As a Meitei and as someone who's loved the idea of the state for a while, ideally, I'm having a very, very optimistic mindset even right now that I do want to still work on the fabric of this. I have many of my close friends were also from this city. I do want to them to come back, live together, being apart, because in the mainland, once we reach in the mainland, we're still known as the same people. They can't even differentiate us. So in that context, of course, I still want the integrity of the state, and I'm also like thinking about the possibility of separate administration because for us, Meiteis have also been on the receiving end of a lot of violence. I mean, like there's a saying that Meitei truck driver na ching da pa da kupak sa adri balai tri na. There's not a single Meitei driver who hasn't received some sort of like assault or violence when they drive in the hills. And at the same time, when I'm thinking about like the Kuki context also, there's a lot of dynamics because we look at them like one monolithic group. But then at the end of the day, there's also the Paite, the Zaumi dynamic is there. There's also cookies, and then there's also this Mar Mizo dynamic that's going on. So I don't know how well that would work for them. But at the end of the day, um, my viewpoints are coming from a place of privilege. So like I can't speak for them in that sense that their
Okay.
aspirations are something that they're entitled to. That's what I would
All
say.
right. Interesting, Misak. Thank you. I'll come back to you in a while. Siam, I'd like to ask you a question which I just asked to Misak. Like I've mentioned earlier, the youth are at the receiving end. Most of the victims in war, I mean, the front line are the youths. Do you believe in a dialogue, which Misak just said, or do you think the Kuki community should, especially the youth, should continue to be at war? You're on mute, Siam.
No, no. I mean, no one should be at war. That's pretty obvious. I don't really think that it's a question also. It has to be rhetorical. I don't think no one should be at war in any way. But
Okay.
the circumstances are such that we have been driven into war. Who is responsible? What is responsible? No matter how much you look at it, you'll keep on blaming each other. So I believe that what should be done at this stage is that we all have to accept the reality that is Manipur right now. We can fantasize about the past. I can fantasize about that I have lived in Imphal. I mean, my father is buried in Imphal. So we can fantasize about those things in general, but at the end of the day, I mean, We all want to live a life of peace and harmony, I would say, at the end of the day,
Right,
irrespective of what.
right, right.
Once
So,
again, as I said, I honestly don't care whether it is a separate administration or whatever it is. Safety and security, my family, I don't want them to ever go through that again. That's my
right.
bottom line. That's
Okay,
non-negotiable for me.
okay,
In what way the leaders negotiate, in what way they do it, that's up to them. I'm not in the
okay,
negotiating table. But what's non-negotiable is my safety and security, everything. And personally, for me and my family, I think we've accepted the reality. We are building a new house in the hills. I think we have accepted the reality, although we haven't received a single penny compensation. We've lost crores and crores worth of property. We have to take like loans and all now to build a house.
hmm,
The government is pretty much doesn't care. I filed two cases in the Supreme Court. I mean that those cases are also not moving forward. I think for the past approximately 1 year, it's been on a limbo. It hasn't really progressed. We don't know what the I don't know what the committee appointed by the Supreme Court is doing, what SITs are doing. There has been no update, nothing. So at the end of the day, no matter how much we fight, I mean, people have forgotten us.
okay.
And
Siam, yeah.
after after a week or two, one or two person will die again. They'll remember us for a day or two, and then they'll
Hmm.
forget us again. And
Yeah,
that's the reality. That's
right,
the
right.
reality of.
Yes, accepting the reality, yeah, is inevitable, and it's encouraging to to listen to a person. I mean, a peace-loving person, Siam. I really appreciate that. Just a supplementary question to what Ms. Haq said earlier. Uh, Most of the organization of the cookie community or individuals in the front line, or should I say, the leaders who are leading this ethnic conflict of the cookie community are demanding for a separate administration, and that is the ultimate demand. Without a separate administration, there is no solution, is what they have been emphasizing on. So, if if the separate administration demand is not granted by the government, what do you think the youth of the cookie community should look forward to? And also, I don't see a negotiation. I mean, from both the communities or even by a third party, I don't see any negotiations taking place at the moment. What do you think should the youth of the cookie community do? Do you think the separate administration demand is achievable? And do you think you are on the right path to achieve such a demand? And if that is not the solution alone, what are the all the other alternatives available for the youth of cookie community?
See, one thing I will, in a way, disagree with at least most of my community, especially the political class, is that when they talk about separate administration, they always say it's an aspiration. I have no aspiration as such. I don't have any kind of such aspiration. I, to me, at least, I think it's a necessity at this point to accept the reality. It's not an
Hmm.
aspiration. Again, once again, I will emphasize on the fact that I have absolutely no aspiration of such things. And this is the thing which I have a problem with my community as well, that they always talk about this aspiration that they have in the midst of all this conflict. I'm sure there were problems. I'm not sure. I know there were problems before the Manipur violence where you should have an aspiration because of the inequalities, everything that has happened. But combining both of them for this Manipur violence is what I feel is wrong, because that's what the kind of things that has happened before the Manipur violence in terms of that political aspiration, I think is valid. But
Okay.
after that, for this Manipur context, I don't think there's aspiration as such, especially for people like me, I would say. I don't know
Hmm.
about, I won't give comment because see, I've been in touch with pretty much for the past almost 2 years now. This has been pretty much been in touch with almost every organization, everything and all. I've been in touch with NGOs. I've been in touch with the CSOs that are leading this movement. I've been in touch with the lawyers. I've been in touch with, yeah, pretty much whatever is possible. And the separate administration, even if it's not granted. See, to us, it's the only solution. Although it might sound a bit aggressive, I would agree to that. It sounds aggressive because sometimes I also get annoyed. You can't keep screaming that. I mean, people are offended when you scream that. You can make them sit down, let them understand it in a calm, peaceful manner. And if you scream, it's like, I'm like there's a difference between I'm proud of my heritage and saying I'm proud of my heritage. There's that's that line which separates like re- being reasonable and just being a fanatic. That's the line which separates it. I think that's why I think sitting down, negotiating, I think that's very, very important. Whether you disagree and you both go different ways, the negotiation doesn't fall in place. I think that's something which can happen. So, but at least, and at this point, I don't think both the communities will come. If you ask them, they won't come. I don't think that's possible in any way. I think it's up to the center to tell, especially those people say, "Oh, come and sit down, or we're removing you." I think that's pretty much and that's the power only the center has.
Okay.
And both of you sit down here, talk, or we are listening to that person if you don't come and sit down. You know,
Okay.
I think that's the power only the center has to do. And us, we can keep bickering. One person will die. The opposition will, of course, the opposition have their whole agenda. Obviously, I mean, we
Yeah.
can't deny
All right.
that fact. It's all politics, and politics is pretty much taking over everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Tim,
think yeah.
you have
And
been yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but while you are speaking about the political class, the politicians, I'd like to ask a question regarding the MLAs of the Kuki community. Most of the MLAs are a part of the current government, which is the Biren Singh-led government, especially the BJP MLAs, but they have not resigned or withdrawn their support. And the BJP is in the center as well as in the state, but the MLAs still with the BJP, and they are asking for the removal of Biren Singh as the chief minister. Some people have been accusing, and there are rumors stating that they might be hand in gloves. They're colluding with these politicians together, not just the Métis alone. What would you like to say to your leaders, the politicians, the MLAs, on the ongoing conflict? Do you think they have a role to play, or are they not doing what they should be doing? Do you think they have? I mean, the solution is in their hands as well. They could have done much better, or they could still do better.
no, the solution is not in their hands because Manipur has become very complicated. If you talk about RMLAs, they are garbage. All of them should be removed immediately, or they should resign. The center should remove them. At the same time, the whole of state of Manipur, the all the political class should be removed. You should have by-elections. Let the fresh people, whoever is elected, if you can put the demonetization in one night and then suddenly make it happen, just remove everyone, have a by-election the next day, so that nobody has any time to influence whoever, and let those people be in the negotiating and whatever works. I mean, whatever. I mean, because at this point, I think again, I'll say MLAs. I mean, although I would say maybe one or two maybe you can't really because one has been paralyzed. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
really put him at fault for not doing anything. But at the end of the day, I think it's all down to politics. I mean, if there's a
Okay.
political will, this Manipur problem would have been solved. And the only way to establish at this point, I don't think many of our people is also not at all happy with MLAs because if you can't do your work, you don't be in that position. No, if you're hired for
Right.
something, basically you are hired for that position to represent the people to bring some solution. If you cannot do that, then you should be fired.
Right.
But
Right.
sadly, they're not doing that, and for some reason, they're still in the cabinet, and the guy who's in charge of the cabinet isn't removing them. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous at this point. I have no
Okay.
idea what's the point of being an MLA if you can't do something. Just saying I
Yeah.
spoke this, I spoke that doesn't really help.
Okay.
Because if you have to make someone listen, you have to find a way to make them listen. Just saying, oh, I said this doesn't really work. And sadly, I don't think even maybe two, three people says it and the rest are just busy. God knows what they're doing. And then that's about it. MLAs, that's why like the CSOs have taken over because they are, I mean, they at least let them go and maybe sit in front of Amit Shah's door and do something. I mean, something so that they talk. No, that's pretty much it. You've seen people in the mainland, their MLAs, like when they protest, they're sitting in front of the bulldozer, so that there's no. You might have seen that video where there's one person who's sitting on a bulldozer, and then he was an MLA, and and we, the problem is in Manipur we kind of treat our MLAs like gods or something, not
Hmm.
realizing that. And there's not this there's this separation of powers concept. No, it's the Constitution of India,
Okay.
separation of power concept.
Okay.
But
Yeah, Siam.
in the Manipur, last I'll just finish up with this. In the
All right.
Manipur society, that separation of powers really doesn't exist. That in a way, CSOs, MLAs, everything are interconnected in one way or the other. That's
Hmm.
that's the reality.
Right.
And that's why you won't see some CSOs actually criticizing some MLAs, which they are supposed to, because CSOs is supposed to be the bridge between, the government and the people, that local body, I would say. But they are not doing their work because they are interconnected in one way or the other. And it applies the whole of Manipur, or not the whole of Manipur in general, but I think it's just politics in general. And that's
Okay.
the reality which has to be accepted about everything.
Right.
That
Right. Yes, yeah. I'll come back to you in a bit. Misak has have an emergency. He has to leave us, but Misak, just kindly bear with us for 5 minutes, and then I'll give you the time for your concluding remark, and then we can end the conversation. But just before you respond to that, I'd like to ask Brother Robin about what you mentioned earlier about the Nagas being hypocritical, behavior in some way, like for example, which in Dimapur, with the example which was stated earlier, we prayed for the cookies since the cookies and the Nagas are Christians, and then the Nagas will, when talking about, in conversation with the Métis, they will talk about the cookies being illegal, such and such things. So, Brother Robin, regarding that, how would you like to respond to that? We Nagas, the Nagas are being hypocritic in a way regarding this conflict. Is that how the Nagas have been at the moment, especially the youths? Most of us, due to the usage of social media and all, we are interconnected. So this kind of rumors and accusation has been going around. How would you like to respond to that? And Mr. I'll give you your concluding remark just after Robin concludes his statement. Yeah, Brother Robin, please take
Yeah,
your time. Hmm.
I hypocrisy. I think it exists within uh, every community. I think, and regardless of whether it is Nagas or Maitais or Kukis, I think there's a certain level of hypocrisy in every community. And regarding what you are referring to, regarding churches in Nagaland praying for Christian brethren in Manipur, which you said is mainly the Kukis, right? I think that might be partly because there is a huge Kuki community there in Nagaland as well, and then their influence there in the churches of Nagaland, I think, is also quite big. I mean, quite huge. So definitely, when they pray, that could, you can infer that they are just praying only for the cookies. But now I think that came from the sense that Christians are being persecuted, targeted, because I feel that is also true to some extent, because there is no denying the fact that even within the Hindu majority Maitai group, I think there are quite a few Christians as well, and we heard that even their churches were, even Maitai Christians were also harassed, and then even their churches and everything was attacked in the peak of the conflict. So I think there is no denying that. And then uh, there was this certain school of thought, so to say. I mean, a notion that it is between Hindus and Christians. That uh, I think that notion, that idea was that idea also went around.
Okay.
And then my friends from mainland Indian, they were calling me up and then asking me about the situation. And then they were Christian friends, so the way they asked me question was, it is a conflict between Christians and Hindus.
Okay.
So whatever they are
Yeah.
questioning me, whatever questions they were asking me was, Hindus are persecuting the Christians.
Okay.
So I think, coming from that point of view, I think, what it might have happened or not, but then if it had happened, I think that would be the reason behind why, I mean, churches in Nagaland would be like praying for the Christian brethren, because as a church, as a community, as a church, our our first inclination would be to our own, fellow Christians, because Christians are one of the most persecuted people all around the world, regardless of whether it is in India or in Manipur or anywhere. So I think if what you said had happened, I think that would come from that. But for us here, within my own church and within my own community here, what we have been praying for in general is, we have been praying. Personally, I have been
Okay.
praying for peace in Manipur. That's what
Yeah.
I
Um,
I have never
okay.
prayed
Brother Robin.
for one particular community to win or for one particular religion to win. We just prayed for the leaders and
Yeah.
for the community as a whole.
Okay.
I mean, for the state as a whole, to return back to
Okay.
peace. So
Yeah,
I don't know
Brother
if that
Robin,
answers your.
yeah, I'll come back to you in a bit. Misak has an emergency, so Misak, actually, I wanted Siam and Robin to say something about the roles of youth, which they expect of Meitei community. But unfortunately, since you have an emergency, I'll give you the time for your concluding remark, and we can listen to it once this is premiered. I would like you to take this moment, take this opportunity to say things about the roles of the the Naga youth and the Kuki youth, and also of the Meitei youth, which you expect or which you'd like to, if there's any suggestions you want to give in order to promote peace, and if there is any other suggestions which you would like to mention, please take your time and take it as your concluding remark.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I mean, at the end of the day, like what this thing Yamba Robin also said was very true. I mean, hypocrisy is always there on our end also. But I think like taking the time to also rectify that, and there's, like I said, like the violence, we all are seeing it in a very binary notion of good, bad, right, wrong. But there are so many things beyond that also. And at the end of the day, like we live in such a globalized time. We live in a time where ideas are being shared, borders are being taken out, and then we're still in this very basic level of like ethno-nationalism that is being promoted by certain people from our communities. And I don't think so that will ever work, because I keep telling the Meiteis here too that Meitei is synonymous to Manipur, but it has never been only Manipur. Manipur has never only been Meiteis. Same for every other communities. Manipur has always been a very, very diverse spot, and I feel like when we look at aspects like tourism and all, we have so much potential. That was something that I thought for a very long time. Unfortunately, now that's a conversation that we can't even talk about. I mean, whatever Nagaland can represent, Manipur can represent. Whatever Mizoram can represent, Manipur can also represent. And we have our own unique aspects also, because this area is a very diverse melting pot. But working on that idea is something that it'll be very rich to say right now, because I mean, I'm not on the suffering end as like many of like these people, these 70,000 people who are homeless right now are. But at the same time, one thing that I want to inform people more is to also have their own opinions. Many young people are very, very opinionated, but then this is all being streamlined to the shepherd, and whenever a shepherd is not a good person, then the representation of the entire community dwindles down. And when you ask young people about their opinions, when we have conversations like these, they will say, no, 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 shh, don't talk loud. Let's not talk about that. Leave it. So this, there's a certain level of young people will engage in violence, hand to hand combat, they will shoot each other, but then just the willingness for dialogue has died down so badly in Manipur. Be it Naga, be it Kuki, be it Meitei, we just don't talk to each other anymore. We'll talk about a crisis, and then if you're talking about a crisis on the Kuki, and then invite a Kuki panelist. If you're talking about a crisis on the Naga, and then invite a Naga person. That is something I often tell to my Meitei colleagues here also, because we are experts of everything. A Naga person will be an expert about the Meitei Kuki conflict. A Kuki person will be an expert about the Meitei context. A Meitei person will talk about the Kuki context. We're not sharing ideas as much as we are right now, and that is also one of the biggest problems that I think we need to address. And the youth need to just converse with each other more. And unfortunately, right now, as of now, I feel like this people, the youth who live outside of Manipur right now, have a bigger duty because they have the luxury to meet and converse with each other, something we don't have anymore in this state. We're
Right.
being policed physically, we're being policed on call. So I'm really hoping that even to your listeners, that people outside the state do have a certain type of duty. So that is something that I want to conclude with.
All right. Misak, thank you so much. We wish you could, I mean, end this conversation together, but since you have an emergency, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that we'll see you in another episode to discuss about optimistic and positive things in the future. Thank you so much. We'll see you around. Yeah,
I look forward to.
yeah. Hopeful, hopeful. Thank you. Brother Robin, I'd like to come back to you. Yes, we have had discussion for a bit long now. Would like to give you the time for the concluding remark now. Um, like you have said earlier, the Nagas have also been in the receiving end. We have been affected by this ongoing conflict. Yes, not exactly the same as the Kuki or the Meitei community, but we have also been affected. What do you expect, or what do you suggest the Nagas youth of the Nagas, the Kuki youth or the Meitei youth in order to promote peace, or if you think otherwise, what should the youth of Manipur be doing in this ongoing conflict? Let this be your concluding remark, and yeah, we can end this conversation.
Mm, I think the best that I can say at the moment is maybe, I mean, for the youth not to be too emotional and too irrational at the moment, to be a little more patient, to be a little more understanding. Because now for me to say that, I mean, anything beyond that, it would be too presumptuous or, like uh, too ambitious. But all I can say at the moment is that, I mean, anything could happen anywhere around, but then let us be a little more kinder, a little more understanding, a little more, uh, you know, uh, a little more held back, so to say, that we do not rush into, into any uh, unnecessary activity just because of the at the spur of the moment we youths are, we have got a tendency to, jump into action without thinking properly. But what I would like to what I feel and what I would like to appeal to everyone is that, especially to the youth, is that, I mean, as young people, as because young people, I mean, youths are like now synonymous with being educated. So I would like to appeal to everyone is to be a little more restrained, to be a little more thoughtful, to be a little more um, kinder, so to say.
Okay.
Because yeah, for me to say we should reconcile and do this and do that and all. I think that would not be up to us. Because even if any one of us take up any positive steps towards uh, bringing about a reconciliation or anything, I think there is going to be a very negative repercussion. Because
Okay.
I don't know if you all remember, but then a few months back, I don't know if it was last year, there was from a certain area, there were some videos going viral that cookies, I think it was the cookies, saying that they are now at peace in that area, and then they are going and interacting with other communities, going to the other communities shop and all. I don't know if you remember that, but those people were fast the next day. I don't know if you
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
recall that incident. Yeah,
Yes,
so that
there were a few
happened.
youths. Yep, yep.
So at this point, we cannot take up any we cannot take up any drastic actions like, showing all those sort of gestures also. But the best, I think, what we can do is whatever might happen. I think it would be best that if we exercise some restraint and then some thoughtfulness and be try to be a little more kinder.
Yeah.
That can be either excuse me, that can be either with the Naga youths, with the Kuki youths, or with the Maitais. So I think if
Okay.
we all do that, if we are a little more thoughtful, if we are a little more kinder, I think we can, contain the conflict a little bit and then strive towards getting
Yeah.
back to normalcy.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Brother Robin,
Uh,
for sharing your concluding remark. Siam, I'd like to give you the time for your concluding remark. The same, which I've asked to the two of them. Your opinion on the roles of the youth of the three communities in order to, yeah, if we can take part in any of it to solve it, or to come back to normalcy, or to promote peace, or to go ahead with the war, whatever it is. What do you think should the youth of Manipur be doing at this moment?
Yeah, I think peace should always be promoted. I think each and everyone should always promote peace. I think that's very, very paramount. Whether it regards to separate administration, whether it regards to law and order, I think peace is paramount in everything. At the same time, I think peace requires certain things for that to happen. And at the very basic level, I would always say, I've said this from the start as well, that there needs to be empathy and accountability. People should be held accountable for whatever bad things they have done. There should be empathy from other people to say that this place has been burning for the past almost 2 years, and everything should head towards that. And I think for anything to move forward, I think it's also paramount that people have to accept the reality of the situation. That we may try to fantasize about the good things in the past. I mean, we can always do that. We can remember the good times. We can try to forget the bad times, but we have to accept the reality that this has happened. People have been hating each other for the past almost 2 years. People have been fighting for almost the past 2 years. People have been killing each other for almost the past 2 years. And if we are under this illusion that those things can be just forgotten with the snap of a finger, then I think yeah, we are unwilling to accept the reality, things as this. It's like, if you're in a relationship, you love someone, and you kind of had a bad breakup, you don't want to let go. And then at the same time, you kind of understand that, yeah, you kind of have to because everything just becomes more and more chaotic. And I always used to use this analogy that it's basically like a divorced couple,
Mhm.
that you can either have a peaceful divorce or you can fight your way to court through 1,000 allegations against each other. So you can either do it peacefully or you can keep on fighting pretty much, I guess, forever because I don't really see any end to this. The reality is that the political has failed completely. My community, definitely, MLAs are pretty much powerless. I mean, I don't really, I mean, in the past 2 years, if there wasn't a single MLA, the same thing would have happened. No, no difference at all.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's the reality.
Yeah.
Uh, that Yeah, I think we have to accept the reality in things as it is, and we need to move on with our lives so that people stop living in relief camps for the next 5 years. I mean, who knows how long this will go on? And
Yeah.
unless and until and unless we are willing to move on, accept the reality, and get closure, I would say closure again is kind of something which is very difficult to achieve because again, empathy and accountability has been missing for the past 2 years from the political class, from each other. And that's it. And lastly, I will say that it's not that it's easy for people like me, especially who have lived all their life in the valley and all to say that, okay, yeah, I'm not going to return. It's very difficult to come to that reality that a place where your family has been there, where everything you've owned there. I mean, as I said, my father is buried in Imphal. Haven't been able to go there for the past 2 years, and for God knows how long I won't be able to go there. Especially because I have been vocal, and I'll be the first one to be killed if I stepped in there. So it comes with a heavy heart when I say that I'm not going to return there,
Hmm.
even if separate administration is granted, even if it's not granted. I have Me and my family, I would say at the very least, has accepted that reality that we
Hmm.
have to move on with our lives. And If the leaders thinks whatever things they do best, I think it's up to them.
Right.
That's about the. Yeah, I think that yeah, that's it.
All right. Yeah, Siam, thank you so much for sharing your concluding remark. And we hope that there will be more people like Siam, Robin, and uh, Mehak who love peace. And we hope and believe that the opinions which we have shared this evening, your experience, your knowledge, it will impact the lives of at least a few people who would be ambassador of peace and bring this state back to normalcy. Thank you so much for taking out your precious time and joining us in this special episode to discuss about the roles and responsibilities of the youth in the ongoing conflict and our roles to promote peace. We hope to see you again and discuss about positive things in the future as well. Thank you so much, Siam, Brother Robin, once again. And also to all the viewers of this episode, thank you so much for joining us, listening to the opinions, the knowledge, and experience of our three special guests this evening. I hope and I believe that we have learned something positive out of this conversation. It's been 19 months since the outbreak of the of the ethnic conflict, and we really hope and we really want the state to be back to normalcy. We want a peaceful solution. That is the expectations of the youth, and we expect the youth of Manipur to perform our duties, to do our roles as expected of us. Let us stop spreading hatred. Let us stop whatever. I mean, these days, wherever we go to a Facebook page or YouTube, if we check on the comments, it's always about hate of another community, spreading lies and fake rumors, etc. So let us stop doing that. I think the best we can do is to promote peace and get this state back to normalcy. I think that is the uh, best role we could do, and the role of the youth is immense. The Yeah, we can expect the politicians to do something for us, like Siam said earlier, but I mean, like he has said, the political class has failed, and they are responsible in many ways in creating this chaotic situation as well. The opinions have been shared, so the best conclusion of today's discussion is that we youth are in some way being used in this conflict as well. So let us be reasonable, let us be thoughtful of our actions, and live as responsible youth. We hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you all so much once again. Good night, everyone.